And we're live. We have so much going on today. Never a dull moment, right? Never, ever a dull moment, shall we say. What I'm most struck by is the enthusiasm that we're suddenly seeing out of Washington, D.C. Who would have thought, right? So the mayor of Washington, D.C. is now caught on live camera praising one Donald Trump, D.C. going totally MAGA, because you know what? Results matter. We're going to get into that story. Chicago. Pay attention. Okay, Brendan Johnson out there in Chicago where you get a disaster of a city. Maybe you could learn a thing or two. He just got totally humiliated this morning on Morning Joe. It's really phenomenal to see. It's sort of strange. I mean, really, I'm like, it's MSNBC. Like, this is friendly territory. For goodness sakes, buddy boy. LaMonica, she's getting desperate. LaMonica McIver, totally desperate. You ought to hear the new legal theory. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. We're going to get into it some more in depth today. Tulsi is purging again. She's getting rid of some big wig people in the intel department, specifically people that are associated with Russia. We'll explain. And who knew John Bolton was actually already under investigation? You know that? They want to say this is political. They want to say this is retribution. They want to say this is just Donald Trump going after John Bolton because he doesn't like him very much, which he doesn't. But you know what? Biden was investigating him too. And we get some new Trump polls to talk about. Welcome to the program, everyone. I am Trish Regan. We are cruising our way towards 1 million subs. It's a big deal. Make sure that you're part of this party. Please make sure you subscribe. Join me here on the channel. Leave a comment. I'm watching your comments in real time. DC is going MAGA, baby. Yeah, totally MAGA. I want you to hear Muriel Browser. She is the mayor of DC, and she's actually, I'm like, wait, am I hearing things? This woman, a Democrat, is praising Trump. Watch.
And we greatly appreciate the surge of officers that enhance what MPD has been able to do in this city. The most significant thing that we are highlighting today is the area of crime that was most troubling for us in 2023. Now, we have driven it down over the last years, but I'm going to get my glasses so I can make sure I can see it correctly. But for carjackings, the difference between this period, this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction in carjackings in Washington, D.C. We know that when carjackings go down, when the use of gun goes down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer and are safer. So this surge has been important to us for that reason.
I would say it has. You know what? When you're saving lives, that's all that matters, right? Can we get away from the politics? Because when you are saving lives, that is what counts. In other words, the Chicago guy, New York, forget about it. LA, forget about it. This woman, I'm actually impressed by. I didn't think I was going to be, but hear her again. She's praising Donald Trump. She is recognizing that they needed these resources and that this is a game changer
in the district. This is what we think in just a couple of weeks of experience has worked. Having more federal law enforcement officers on the street. We think having more stops that got to illegal guns has helped. We think that there's more accountability in the system, or at least perceived accountability in the system, that is driving down illegal behavior. We know that we have had fewer gun crimes, fewer homicides, and we have experienced an extreme reduction in carjackings. What we know is not working is a break in trust between police and community, especially with new federal partners in our community. We know having masked ICE agents in the community has not worked, and National Guards from other states has not been an efficient use of those resources. What's still needed is, in the city, we're going to continue to need more police. We continue to need more prosecutors, more judges. more effective prevention programs, and we need to ensure local control.
Yeah. Okay, like this is not rocket science, for goodness sakes. It's not rocket science. And Muriel, she finally gets it. She loves the guy who's helping her because you know what? If you can save lives and clean up your community, it shouldn't be that hard. Honest to God, it shouldn't be that hard.
For the mayor, could you say why you believe the Trump administration exerting greater control over Union Station would be a good thing?
They own Union Station. It's owned by the Department of Transportation. And it will be a good thing because that station has suffered from needing, some say $12 billion, but let's call it at least $8 billion worth of investment in the renovation. And that is not something that the district will be able to support. It is an important regional asset. It's an important asset for the Eastern Seaboard. It's an important asset for the nation. So it is appropriate, in my view, for the federal government to make the necessary investments in the transformation of Union Station.
Thank you.
You know,
in other words, just get out of the way.
Investments?
Like, let all the politics stop. Let Donald Trump do what Donald Trump can do. Let the federal government do what it can do. Take the help, for goodness sakes. What do they say? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Just actually embrace this. I mean, what he's trying to do is clean things up. Yes, he wants to get rid of people who are here illegally that have committed crimes. No brainer, right? Like, how is that such a hard thing to understand? Muriel Browser, I'll tell you, she's a survivor. She knows how to preserve her political career, unlike the likes of LaMonica McIver, who is actually learning in real time that she's going to be facing 17 years in the slammer because of this. Unbelievable. I mean, again, just look at that video. I know we've been through this before, guys, but like, she's actually like pounding on somebody. Did you see that? Okay, like let's go back. Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that? Boom. Okay, right into the police officer's back. Like, you can't do that, okay? I don't care if you're a member of Congress. I don't care who you are. I mean, this is not acceptable, right? Like, I'm just saying, it's not acceptable. I don't care, LaMonica. You may think you're the hottest thing since God knows what, but it is not acceptable. You cannot act like that, whether you are a congressperson. That's her big thing. Oh my gosh, if they can do this to me, they can do this to you. No. Like, you're a congressperson. If anything, we got to hold you to a higher standard. So now she's asking, as we speak, to have her sentence thrown out. She does not sentence, her indictment. She's going to be sentenced. Probably to 17 years. I don't know if she's going to get the full 17. I think she should, but she probably won't. I'm just being a realist here. She might get something, though. I mean, she might get something. She's trying to fundraise off of this. She's trying to make a big deal out of this politically. She's like, oh, woe is me, woe is me. They're just picking on me because I'm a poor black woman. That's what they see me as a threat because I'm a black woman. No. LaMonica, they see this. And you know what else I see? Alina Habba saw the fact that you weren't willing to actually come to terms and make some kind of agreement like the mayor of Newark, New Jersey did. No. You wanted to double down and say, well, I'm not going to actually admit any wrongdoing. I think what I did was absolutely fine. Well, I mean, if you think what you did was fine, then, well, hey, you got 17 years that you're looking at for real. So she is asking that they throw this out, the indictment out, because, wait for it, because somehow this is akin to the pardons. She thinks she should be pardoned like the J6ers. I mean, first of all, like, there's no legal argument in there, just, you know, for the legal eagles out there, that like actually doesn't fly. The court is not going to look at it that way. The legal standard doesn't work that way. And so Monica doesn't really have a prayer in terms of that. In order for this sort of, theory to fly, she'd have to show both a discriminatory effect as well as a discriminatory purpose. And I think that would be really, really hard. She's pointing at the 160 plus J6 dismissals, but court the court does require defendants to be similarly situated, and that's not the case here at all. So she's got a very, very steep hill. She's making the argument anyway, let's face it, guys, because this is a political person, and she's trying to seek some kind of opportunity in all this, which is why she's doing the rounds on MSNBC, who, by the way, hasn't had her on lately. You know, MS Now, as they're now being known, is trying to actually sound like they're more fair. So maybe they don't want to put the likes of LaMonica on all day long. But here she was saying, they're just picking on me because I am a powerful black woman. I'm young, I'm powerful, and they don't want me. They're threatened by me.
Is there something about you that is so threatening or scary to them?
Not that I thought. I mean, I am a young African-American woman from the city of Newark. I love serving people. I don't find myself to be intimidating or dangerous or any of those things that the Justice Department have been saying about me. You know, it's truly unfortunate to be in this situation, but at the same time, it goes back to the political intimidation about this administration. And because I'm speaking out, because I'm doing my job, I think they want to continue to silence leaders and, you know, stop their critics from, you know, speaking out against them. And so they'll go to any extent, especially any extent of cruelty, to make an example. And I am that example now.
And you say to silence you, did the Trump DOJ float or push anything other than going to trial?
I mean, absolutely. The acting U.S. attorney for New Jersey wanted me to admit to something that I did not do. That was not right. That's what she put in her tweet that we saw that night.
But if you had done that, were they saying they would drop the whole thing?
Yes. Yep. That is exactly what she said.
That's a lot. I mean, again, that's a lot of pressure because some people would say, gosh, let somebody else fight this out. You're saying the whole thing could go away if you just said something.
Correct. And I was not doing that. I was not going to waver on that. Like I said, I went to Delaney Hall with my colleagues. We went there for an oversight visit, and we didn't do anything wrong. The whole tent situation that took place, DHS and Homeland Security and ICE, they created that, not us. And so, absolutely, I was not going to do that.
Excuse me. They gave you an opportunity to make good, and you didn't take it. Because why? Because you think that kind of behavior seriously is appropriate? I mean, if you think that's appropriate, then you know what? I don't think you should be a member of Congress, frankly. I think you got to get kicked out of Congress. Here she is doubling down on this recently. Remember, this is what's new in this story. LaMonica McIver, the representative from New Jersey, is demanding that her indictment be dismissed. And she's saying it must be dismissed just the way the J6ers got dismissed. And it's a bizarre legal theory, but she's trying to ride it all the way to the political bank.
A developing story. The Justice Department filed charges Monday against a Democratic member of Congress, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver of New Jersey. DOJ is accusing her now of assaulting and interfering with law enforcement during a confrontation.
I mean, it kind of looks like that to me, right? I mean, we're watching the video together. They get a nice little highlight on the lady in red. What do you think? It looks like she assaulted an officer.
With Homeland Security officers outside an ICE detention center in Newark earlier this month. You're seeing video that we've played before of the moments of the chaos that ensued. The situation first grabbed attention when the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, was arrested on grounds of federal trespassing. That charge has since been dropped. The mayor was on CNN with Abby Phillip last night and spoke about all of this. Listen to this.
I didn't see any of the things that were stated. I didn't see any of those things happen. So I think that the Congresswoman will be vindicated. And the videos are clear. Everybody can see those videos. They'll see the whole thing, and it'll be clear to me, and it'll be clear to her in court.
Speaking up in defense of the Congresswoman, joining me right now is the Congresswoman at the center of this, Congresswoman LaMonica McIver. Thank you, Congresswoman, for being here. The charge is specifically for assaulting, impeding, or interfering with law enforcement. What is your reaction to this charge?
First of all, thank you so much, Kate, for having me, for allowing me to come on for a few seconds today. I think the charges are absurd. You know, it's ridiculous. I was there to do my job along with my other colleagues. We have done this before. This is our obligation to do. It's in our job description to have oversight over a facility, and the entire situation was escalated by ICE. They caused the confrontation. Homeland came and, you know, caused this chaos that we see. It was a very tense situation, but it could have been, you know, easily not happened. They had every opportunity to not allow this to happen. It was very unnecessary, and it just, once again, we were there to do our jobs. And, you know, if I'm going to be charged with a crime for doing my job, it just speaks to, you know, where we're headed in this country and what we're dealing with as leaders and as Congress members, you know, here in this country.
Congresswoman, just specifically on the issue at hand with now that you're facing this charge, I mean, what is the plan today? I mean, are you turning yourself in or showing up in court? I mean, what is your understanding of what happens now?
So we are still trying to get more information on what the next steps are. My attorneys are in contact with the federal courts in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey. So we're just waiting on direction. For now, it's business as usual. I'm going to do my job. This week, we all know that Republicans are trying to take away Medicaid and important funding to services that impact the over 800,000 people that I represent in New Jersey and across this nation. And so I'm going to do my job, Kate. That's why I was elected, why the people from New Jersey sent me here. So it's a full day of work for me here on the Capitol.
You know, we're just
on Capitol Hill, excuse me.
No, of course, we were just covering it as President Trump is heading into a big
I
meeting
can't
with
listen
Republicans.
to her anymore. She's just so blatantly irresponsible, and it really becomes kind of disgusting after a while, because this is nothing but an opportune moment for her. And you know how I know that? You know how I know that? Take a look at, so she's trying to get this thing thrown out, right? Simultaneously, let me share with you some new articles that just crossed within the last couple of hours. Well, here's one, for example, in none other than the Rolling Stone. Okay, Rolling Stone magazine, rather. So here she is looking all spiffy. Trump is prosecuting a Democrat congresswoman. Well, you can't do that, right? You can't go, especially because she's black. You know, you definitely can't go after her. Just like you can't go after Lisa Cook, even though she may have committed mortgage fraud. And she's sitting on the Board of Federal Reserve Governors. You're not allowed to go after her because, as Hakeem Jeffries said, you know what? She is the first black woman to be on that board. So somehow she's untouchable. Not. And this lady is not untouchable either. So again, this is the big article. Look at the headline. Trump is prosecuting a Democrat congresswoman. She isn't flinching. We know why we're here. We're here to do our jobs. That was just doing her job. A visit to an ICE detention center where she was just doing her job. Guys, I'm curious. Let me just look at your comments. Like, how is that doing your job? You saw what I saw. That is not doing your job. That is being a public nuisance at the least, and at the most, it's assaulting a federal officer. You know what? She's not going to get those charges thrown out. As I said, she doesn't have a legal argument to stand on, so she can go out and do all the interviews she wants in Rolling Stone, and I think there's another magazine, Mother Jones, of course, Rolling Stone. Both of them are out simultaneously. LaMonica McIver and the lock her up president. That's what they're saying. I mean, for goodness sakes. It's like, just because... I got to show you this headline. Just because you happen to be a black woman, you are not somehow subjected to the same kind of standards as anybody else in society. I'm sorry, but those days are gone. And you know how I know those days are gone? I know those days are gone because I'm looking at what's going on right now in Washington, D.C., where, by the way, you have a black woman Muriel Browser, who's sitting there saying, thank you, Donald Trump, for actually coming in and helping us. And she's a Democrat at that. Here's the headline I wanted to show you in Mother Jones, okay? The charges against the New Jersey Congresswoman, which scream pretext for political prosecution, are unprecedented in modern U.S. history. Well, you know what else is unprecedented in modern U.S. history? It is unprecedented that you would have a lady who happens to be a representative for the U.S. Congress out there powwowing, I mean, alleged, but I saw the tape and you saw the tape, a federal officer. I mean, that's kind of unprecedented too, just saying, okay? So we actually have to have some responsibility in this country. This is about accountability. They're all being held accountable. And that's an important thing to remember, right? Accountability is everything. You can't let the LaMonicas of the world get away with this. You can't let the Letitias of the world get away with this. You cannot let the Adam Schiffs of the world get away with this. And you certainly got to take down everybody that was part of Obamagate. And that's what's going on. This is a new era of accountability. And I'm telling you, Tishy Baby, Schiff, Lisa Cook, LaMonica, you guys are all in trouble, and you should be, because you know what? The rules apply to everyone. You don't get a pass just because of who you are. I mean, Byron Donalds, he said this so well. He was on with my friend Muriel Browser this morning, and I want to show you how he framed it. He is spot on, okay? This is a new era, and there will be accountability. No more Mr. Nice Guy.
This is accountability. Number one, people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And it is crystal clear that Letitia James has been under investigation for quite some time with her mortgage fraud issues. We know Adam Schiff was leaking to the press, leaking classified information, and apparently he has mortgage fraud issues as well. And so what you're going to see out of this administration is everybody's going to be held accountable. The law will be upheld. Justice will be done. There's not going to be a picking and choosing the way it was done under Nancy Pelosi, under Joe Biden and the Democrat Party, where they were just using the Justice Department and the intelligence community to go after their chief political rival. You couple that with the fact that this mortgage fraud case in New York, which was the most silly case we've ever heard in our life, where Letitia James was saying like properties like Mar-a-Lago were worth $15 million. I mean, complete insanity. The right thing was done, that ridiculous judgment was thrown out by the appellate court in New York.
You know, you think about what's happening right now, and I'm just look at this list. Okay, you've got a whole bunch of these. You've got, basically, Bill Pulte's very busy. He's working overtime there in D.C. All these alleged mortgage fraud scandals. Adam Schiff, primary residence in Maryland and California. And before you sit there and tell me, like Paul Krugman tried to tell us yesterday on CNN, that somehow this is akin to like cheating on a third grade test. No. This is real. This is real world stuff. And if you're Lisa Cook and you're on the board of the Federal Reserve and you're actually pushing for higher interest rates, which means everybody's going to have to pay more for their mortgage rate, and then you're out there and you're getting a special sweetheart deal trying to claim 2 primary residents, if this is what she in fact did, my gosh, that's a problem. And you certainly can't be doing this. Again, as Adam Schiff allegedly did, senator from California, Letitia James, for goodness sakes, she's the DA, AG, forgive me, from New York. I mean, this is bizarre, not to mention the father thing, which gets kind of Ilhan Omar-esque. Lisa Cook, primary residence in Georgia and Michigan. And then, the lady that likes to suck it to them, LaMonica, out there doing her thing. They're all going to be in trouble because you can't do that anymore. I realize, they're going to try and say, oh, well, we're just getting picked on because we're Democrats, and they got Abby Lowell, who's Abby Lowell, who's making a killing. He's a lawyer that used to work for Hunter Biden, and now he's working for the Biden appointee, Lisa Cook, who just got fired from the Fed. He's actually also working for Letitia James, and we just found out last night he's in negotiations with John Bolton, because John Bolton's in a lot of hot water too, and rightly so, because guess what? He's got an investigation that's carrying on from the Biden years. We're going to talk about this. I'm telling you, make sure you subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. Dawn is going to get so mad at you guys. I'm looking at the chat. If you do not hit the like, so hit the likes, pound the likes. It's really important right now. Accountability is here. Tulsi Gabbard is making that clear. Tulsi Gabbard has a huge purge that's going on right now as we speak. But think about when we talk about accountability, right, think about it not just in terms of what the Trump administration is going to do, but also what voters are expecting. Because voters are looking at what's going on in Washington, D.C. and how it's effectively going MAGA. You've got the mayor there who's saying, hey, fantastic, you're going to help me fight crime. And she's a Democrat, and she's welcoming this, and she's praising Donald Trump, saying carjackings are down in the last 20 days, 87%. What do you know? So at what point then do voters also start saying, we want accountability? We want accountability in our city. I mean, you're going to have the crazies out there, the delusional ones like this fellow I'm about to show you in D.C., who's really off his rocker and perhaps is watching too much of The View.
We believe that the National Guard and the military occupation is the first step into rounding black people up and putting them in detainment camps here in Washington, D.C. and around the United States of America.
Woo!
We believe that.
Oh, I get it. Like, that's your truth. That's your truth. Oh, you know who else's truth it is? I think I've heard that from Whoopi. I think we heard that from Whoopi Goldberg. Mm-hmm.
All of you. Talking about you, it's us. He's not going to, say, oh, you're with a white guy, I'm going to keep you from being deported. No, he's going to deport you and put the white guy with someone else. The man is out there. He's also...
No. You're out there. You're out there. That gentleman we just saw who's so delusional is out there. You know who gets it? Most of the people of D.C., who are looking at this and saying, thank you. Thank you for bringing our crime rates down. Hello, take a look at those numbers. This is just in the last 7 days, but you know what? You heard Muriel. She said in the last 20 days, the number's actually higher. Carjackings are down 87%. They went 12 days without a murder. That's like a record in D.C. You're talking about a city where they allegedly cooked the book so that it's not as bad as it really is. Like, they try to make it less than it is. But you're looking at, sadly, a homicide rate of 44 out of 100,000, which is in line with what you would see. Well, actually, it's worse. It's worse than what you would see in Colombia, in Bogota, or in Lima, Peru, or in, parts of Africa. I mean, for goodness sakes, and this is our nation's capital, so that has to change. And you know what? Not just in our nation's capital, thank you very much. I'd like for it to change everywhere. I'd like every city in America to be safe. Now, wouldn't you? Some people, they don't want that. Some people, like the delusional Chicago mayor, is not taking a hit from the mayor of D.C., but rather listening a little too much to Whoopi Goldberg and some of those delusional people on the street. Take a listen to him. Chicago, once again, fanning the flames.
He's working to eliminate black history. He is trying to eliminate black existence from this country, but he's also attacking the LGBTQ+.
I wouldn't say he's trying to eliminate black existence.
I mean, even the CNN anchor had to jump in and say, whoa, you're going a little too far. Exactly. Okay, that's from my shorts feed, by the way. I hope you guys follow that as well. Look, these are the numbers, and the numbers now don't lie, and this is encouraging, and this is good stuff, and so why wouldn't you want this everywhere? Well, I'll tell you, Tom Homan's willing to take it everywhere. Tom Homan coming out this morning and talking to reporters and saying he's ready, willing, and able to go. He's going to take ICE all over the country. They're going nationwide, specifically to some of those Democrat states that aren't enforcing the law, and this is the law. If you're not cooperating with ICE, you are in violation of the law. Thank you very much. Mayor of Chicago, Mayor of Boston, Mayor of Los Angeles. So this is what Tom is going to do about it. He's up in the ante. Watch.
But you can see a ramp up of operations in Chicago, absolutely. You're going to see a ramp up of operations in New York. You're going to see a ramp up of operations continue in LA. And, Portland, Seattle. I mean, all these sanctuary cities that refuse to work with ICE, where we know public safety threats are being released every day into this country, especially those cities, we're going to address that. We don't have that problem in Texas and Florida where all the sheriffs are working with us and they're actually holding people for us and letting us know when someone's being released. So we're going to take the assets we have and move them to problem areas like sanctuary cities where we know for a fact they're releasing public safety threat, illegal aliens to the streets every day. That's where we need to send the majority of the resources, and that's where they're going.
this shouldn't be that hard. Like it's amazing to me that it's that complicated to them. Because, you know, when you look at the new poll numbers, and we're going to go through those a little bit later in the program, when you look at the new poll numbers, what do you see? Overwhelmingly, people are very impressed with how Donald Trump has handled crime and how Donald Trump is cracking down. And they like what they're seeing in Washington, D.C. So much so that the people of Chicago are saying, hey, please come here. We need your help. We need your help. And yet, this mayor out there, he doesn't want it. He doesn't want more police. He doesn't want Donald Trump. I got to show you something because I saw this clip on Morning Joe this morning, you know, from that whatever you call it, MSNBC. They tend to be, obviously, extraordinarily liberal, but, you know, I think Joe's trying to come around because he knows where his bread is buttered. And, well, let's just say, the network's in a very tough spot. Not to mention the ratings have completely sunk. So he brings on the Chicago mayor who thinks he's going into friendly fire territory. But Joe actually asked him a real question. And it gets really interesting because this guy just literally sunk himself in real time. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wow, buddy, you need help. You need your head examined. Like, can you not understand where this is going? Like, you just did yourself in. I guarantee you, he's going to lose his next election. And this is going to be one of the reasons he does. Let's watch it together.
So let me ask you, Mr. Mayor, those all sound like great programs. I'm curious, would you also like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 more cops on the street in Chicago? Would that help drive down crime?
Well, look, policing by itself is not the full strategy.
No, I understand that. You've talked about the other things you want, and I said those are good and important programs, but I'm asking also, would 5,000 more police officers on the street in Chicago be helpful to go along with all of those social programs that a lot of cities are engaging in and having success with?
Well, look, here's the best way I can put it, Joe, is that in the 90s when I was in high school, we had 3,000 more police officers and we had 900 people being murdered every single year in Chicago. It's just not policing alone. Of course, we want more detectives.
I know it's not policing alone, but I know it's not policing alone. You've told me everything else you want. I'm curious, and this does come down to an ideological difference between people. Do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, you know, affordable housing. Look,
okay,
I'm not saying that
that's not the question I asked. My question is, and I just need a yes or a no, do you believe the streets of Chicago would be safer if you got all of those other extraordinary programs put back into place, which do have a history of being successful, if that's complemented by having 5,000 more cops on the streets of Chicago?
I don't believe that we should narrow it down to just police officers, Joe, is what I'm saying. That is an antiquated approach. I'm saying we've invested in detectives.
Mr. Mayor, are you hearing what I'm saying? I'm agreeing with you that all of these other social programs are extraordinarily important. I just need a yes or a no, and then this will be the last time I ask. If you get all of those other social programs that 800 million that New York City does, Los Angeles, other people do with great success, would an additional 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago help complement those programs to make Chicago safer?
Look, we are working hard to make sure that our police department is fully supported. I don't believe that just simply putting out an arbitrary number around police officers is the answer. What I'm saying is policing and affordable housing. It's policing and mental and behavioral health care services. It's policing and youth employment. It's a full package. Of course, we want to make sure that our police department is fully supported. That's why I've invested in our Detectives Bureau, because what we have seen in the city of Chicago, when we solve crime, it acts and serves as a deterrent. It's policing and all of the other efforts that we're doing. Here's the last thing that I'll say to that. The federal government could work stronger to coordinate with my police department to get guns off the streets of Chicago. We've seen these coordination efforts work. Just a couple of weeks ago, the ATF working with my police department, we removed over 150 guns off the streets of Chicago that were trafficked in through Mississippi and Indiana. No one is saying that police officers don't play an incredible role in driving safety. They play an absolute pivotal role in that. But we have asked law enforcement to do too much. Police officers are being asked to be social workers, counselors. What I'm simply saying is, if we're going to build safe and affordable cities across America, the one thing that safe communities all have in common, they invest in people. We have a poverty issue in the city of Chicago and cities across America.
Wow.
Police officers alone will not put food on the table. Police officers alone will not guarantee a high-quality education. Police officers alone won't drive down unemployment. We need all of it. The President of the United States of America and the federal government could restore Medicaid. They could restore SNAP. They could stop defunding our public education system. Here's the most important point here. Justice Brandeis, over 100 years ago, the first Jewish American to sit on the Supreme Court, he said that we could either have a democracy or wealth in the hands of the concentrated few. He said, but we cannot have both. We are fighting for our democracy and our humanity right now. This president's nescience of the Constitution will leave irrevocable harm on posterity. That's why, as mayor of the city of Chicago, we are standing up to tyranny, and American cities across this country are doing the same.
Oh my God. He just wants to help you, Brandon. Okay, he wants to help you get some more police on the streets so that you can actually have safe streets, so that, you know what, the kids can go to school and the parents don't have to worry about them, so that people can go to work and come back. You know, that's how you build an economy. That's how you build prosperity. You gotta have safety first. I mean, what moron doesn't get that? Oh, I know, somebody who wants to defund the police. Listen, those days are over, baby. Like, it's a whole new game. And you know what? Whether you look at the revolt we saw with Cracker Barrel, where they had to actually change what they were doing because consumers didn't like it. In fact, we're going to talk about that because they even changed what they got on the website. Or whether you see the revolt from the people in the city of Chicago because they got idiots like this. And that guy's an idiot. That guy's an idiot. He doesn't want to accept any help, any federal help, because he doesn't want anybody policing his streets. You just want more crime, and you want to then take more money and put it into the teachers union so that you can graduate more kids that aren't going to school because they can't even get to school without a threat on their life. I'm sorry. No, you got to start with basics, and then we can worry about art and music and the rest of it, okay? Yeah. This mayor is under fire from his own residents, as we pointed out in a recent short. Take a look. Stand in the way of any DHS efforts. Got a little bit of a scolding by one of his constituents because he wouldn't even look at the guy.
I am speaking right now, so I would love your undivided attention, please. I'll wait.
And wait.
So this just proves to you the lack of leadership that you show in this city. You can't even give me straight eye contact. Now, I'm going to let you know now, the people of Chicago, we're done with you. It is insane how we have been voting Democrat for over 60 plus years, and we've never seen a change from people like you, Lori Lightfoot, Rob Emanuel. It is insane. Chicago was 37% red. In 2020, it was only 15%. So we're waking up. So you can pretend that this isn't happening, but I know for a fact that you will not have that seat the next election.
Boom! Did you hear that? Mayor Johnson, they don't like you. You're going to be out. You will be. I'm telling you, you will be. Like, he doesn't get it. He doesn't actually care about the people enough. He cares about, I don't know, the teachers union and getting more money for this pet project or that pet project. And then, by the way, don't forget his hiring practices are very suspicious as well. Like, this is not a colorblind hiring practice. No, this is DEI on steroids, which, by the way, is illegal and certainly should be eradicated. There's this one reporter that called him out, and it's magnificent. I want to share this clip with you because, listen, this nut job of a mayor was just exposed on Morning Joe and got exposed in a press conference by a Chicago reporter. Listen.
Racist. Mayor Johnson.
Yeah.
Please turn the mic on. Thank you. Real Chicagoans woke up this morning relieved that the Department of Justice is finally investigating your race hustle. As someone who grew up on the south side of Chicago, I've heard a lot of race hustlers in my life, trust me. But they were usually marching around outside of City Hall, which is what makes this so embarrassing and dangerous. For over a year, real Chicagoans, white and black, have been telling me that your black power rhetoric is bringing the city backwards from a place that
we need the question
had overcome. You want the question?
Please.
Real Chicagoans want to know, why are you a racist?
You know, first of all, I reject the idea and the premise that somehow that's an actual legitimate question.
You want that?
All right, we're going to go to the next one. Alice?
The next question, my follow-up question is a businessman, Robert Gomez, had his riverfront restaurant license yanked. You said that the reason you hire black people is because they're the most generous race on the planet. His riverfront restaurant license was yanked and given to a black restaurateur. That has, once again, reinforced the belief among real Chicagoans, white and black, and Mexican, that you are a racist. What do you say to those people?
Again, I reject the premise that somehow that your question has any legitimacy. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you. We'll go to Alice.
Thank you.
The
number one employer of our people is our people. What I'm saying is, when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet. The deputy mayor is a black woman. Department of Planning and Development is a black woman. Infrastructure deputy mayor is a black woman. Chief operations officer is a black man. Budget director is a black woman. Senior advisor is a black man. One thing that I know for sure that I have to do over these next 2 years, every single dime that our people have been robbed of, I want to make sure that that is returned 2-3-fold. We have 6 developers that have received the first $30 million for investment. 6 developers. Of those 6 developers, 5 of them are black and 3 are women. BOA Construction received the prime construction contract at O'Hare under my administration.
I'm sorry, you get the idea, right? You get the idea. Like the entire problem here is that he's stuck in a different time period. We're moving on. We're getting away from all the labels. The labels, they don't matter. What matters is safety. What matters is opportunity. And the people of Chicago know it. So, Johnson, you're gonna be out. Chicago's going red.
I want to say thank you to our president, the people's president. Like I keep saying, the real MVP, President Donald J. Trump. Thank you, President Trump, for hearing us, for listening to us. We need you here in Chicago, not just to see the National Guard.
He says he's willing. Boom. You know what? This guy, he made a fool of himself on MSNBC. He's making a fool of himself in these town hall meetings. He is stuck in a different era, in a different century. He's race baiting, and it is time to move on, okay? It's just time to move on. We've had enough with it. By the way, like all the race baiting, in a world where like your truth is your truth, right? How is that even effective anymore? I just kind of wonder because, they want to say, well, I'm this, that, and the other, but yet simultaneously you're allowed to be this, that, and the other, right? Like I can identify, I guess, as a man if I want, or you, if you're a man, can identify as a woman if you want. And I think that this is kind of reaching a tipping point. And by the way, my heart goes out I've said this before, and we can talk about it a little bit later, to all the victims in Minneapolis. And it's a horrible, horrible, horrible story. And there's a lot of reasons for it, and it's very nuanced. And we've learned, of course, that it was a transgender person that did that. But I just want to say something, because, they're so obsessed in Chicago with race, okay? Race is everything. And yet, the woke say you can be whatever you want to be. Well, like, which is it? This guy gets it. This guy is a total legend for this one. Watch. This guy is epic.
I have gender skin color dysphoria. Yep. I am a white lesbian trapped in a black man's body. I'm 6 months pregnant and I love my husband, but the LGBTQ community won't accept me. And they tell me you could be what you want to be.
Yeah! That's good. You get it, right? I mean, it's so asinine. For goodness sakes. Just get over it, everyone. The one thing about Donald Trump, and I'll say this about him, and I've always known this about him, is he really is a true opportunist who believes in a real meritocracy. So it doesn't matter what color skin you have. It doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. It doesn't matter if you're gay or straight. He's like, and you did the job. And if you can do the job, you get the job, right? Look at Scott Bessent, first gay Treasury Secretary. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't care. Wonderful. Okay, so what? You look at the first female chief of staff, Susie Walls. Listen, she's female. Guess what? Doesn't matter. Not like he gets any credit for it. I mean, if it were Biden, he'd be like, and I get this one, I get this one, I get this one, I get this one. It doesn't matter. Let's get away from it and just say, hey, ownership for oneself. Okay? You got one shot at this, one life. Make it the best you possibly can and take some damn responsibility. And this is what this moment in time, ladies and gentlemen, is really about. Whether it's LaMonica, whether it is Chicago, whether it is Los Angeles, whether it is Letitia James, whether it is Fannie Willis, any of them, or the Obamagate folks, they're in for it in a big way. I want to go to Tulsi's big purge breaking right now. But first, a quick shout out to my own company, 76 Research, as I look at some of them. We just put a note out, like literally within the last hour, right before I came to air, on NVIDIA. So I encourage you to go and get it. Go to 76research.com. Use code word $. It's $1 a month for the first 2 months, and it goes to $9.95. We get a lot of great ideas there for you. We do have portfolios as well. You can sign up for these model portfolios. We don't invest your money. You invest your money. But we tell you what we like, and you know what? I'll tell you, we got a heck of a track record. Let me see if I can pull it up. Do I have it handy? Yes, I do. I have it handy. See that track record. So we've been very, very successful, thankfully, but I'm working with a brilliant guy, and I'm not too shabby myself. Rob Horton, who spent decades on Wall Street, is really smart and a great stock picker. So go check it out, 76research.com, code word $. Tulsi Gabbard. Ooh, she is out for some blood, and you know what? She's firing some more people. She's like purging away. It had to be done, right? I mean, it had to be done considering what went down. The newest, latest, and greatest is that she just fired a top CIA Russia expert. This is days after the Alaska summit. So this CIA agent was actually about to take up this really, really prestigious assignment overseas in Europe, and it was actually already approved by the CIA director, John Radcliffe. But instead, Tulsi took away her security clearance. And that means no more going over there for the big gig. And the reason she took away the security clearance is because this particular person is alleged to have been involved in the 2017 operation that was trying to take one President Trump down.
Detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out.
So apparently, and you know all the details. We've been through this at length, and I don't want to repeat too much. But don't forget, Tulsi has been doing this massive investigation, and what she has discovered is that there seems to have been a very deliberate effort by the Obama administration to taint and make difficult the Trump presidency because, they couldn't believe that Hillary Clinton didn't win. And they knew that Russia was not involved. They knew that they didn't actually work with Donald Trump and that they didn't have any goods on Donald Trump. And don't forget the Russian dossier, which was nothing but a bunch of garbage. It was actually opposition research, which had been bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton's campaign, courtesy of, was it Coy? Perkins Coy. Ooh. I had a Biden moment. Perkins Coy was the law firm that bought that paid for that. And then they are the ones that then went out and got Fusion GPS, which was that opposition research firm. Interestingly, like a bunch of ex-Wall Street Journal reporters that were running that. And then they went out and hired Christopher Steele, who was the ex-British spy, kind of washed up in the UK. And then he went out and hired some people, including somebody that the US government actually believed was suspicious about being a Russian spy himself. So it's like super convoluted. But the point is, they're out there trying to say Trump is this Russian asset. I mean, that's a heck of a thing to say. But Tulsi went through the same exact thing herself. Think about what they were saying about Tulsi. What did Hillary Clinton do when she realized that Tulsi Gabbard was a threat? Dun, dun, dun. She started saying that Tulsi might be a Russian asset herself. So I think Tulsi's kind of had it up to here. Tulsi Gabbard, however, kind of blindsided, according to the Wall Street Journal, the CIA over revoking clearance of this undercover officer. The naming of an agency Russian hand on the list of officials has alarmed people, apparently within the CIA, within the spy agency. So they're a little caught off guard. She basically put forward a list of 37 current and former officials and said we're stripping every single one of them of their security clearances. And obviously that this person who was supposed to go overseas to the Plum European gig couldn't actually take that job because this person no longer had the security clearance that would be required in order to perform the job. Gabbard apparently didn't know that the CIA officer had been working undercover. According to the Wall Street Journal, and some of their sources, Gabbard's office apparently delivered, again, that list of 37 people to the CIA the evening before the list's release with, the knowledge that all 37 of them were losing their security clearances. So that meant that the one person who was sort of the Russia expert couldn't go over and continue that out. Now, there are some people that are worried. They're like, oh my gosh, we're not going to have the same access and level to intelligence, and what's going to happen with all these people leaving. I think there's also the flip side of this, which is that, if this particular person was indeed involved, as Tulsi has alleged, in the construction of this narrative to try and take Donald Trump down, how are you going to trust that person? Like, you actually do have to clean house and get people. I realize it's hard. You're going to have to go out and scour the earth for intel assets, but you need to have people that you can trust there that aren't going to be trying to take down a government, specifically Trump's government. So this is where we are. According to a spokesperson in Gabbard's office, the Director of National Intelligence directed the revocations to ensure individuals who have violated the trust placed in them by weaponizing, politicizing, manipulating, or leaking classified intelligence are no longer allowed to do so. Makes sense, right? Makes sense. Look, she's differed occasionally with Radcliffe. We saw some of those differences come forward in July when she declassified a lightly redacted document about Russian influence in the 2016 election. Apparently the CIA had wanted to redact a greater portion of the report because it revealed sensitive things like agency sources, et cetera. And she's like, nope, it's all coming out. It's all coming forward. So these are some of the things that they're working through right now. But I can just assure you that she is absolutely focused on rooting out any of this insane bias that we saw against Trump. I mean, if you're willing, as these people were, you have 51 ex-spooks that drafted that letter. Not just drafted, they published the letter in Politico, I believe. 51 ex-spooks and hacks from Brennan to Comey. You know whose idea it was? Our former Secretary of State, for goodness sakes, under Biden. Think about that. Tony Blinken had the idea that they should do this. And he worked with the rest of them to round them all up, and they put this thing together, and it's like they're treating it like it's gospel. And the next thing you know, the New York Post loses its Twitter account. Thank God for Elon. What a different place the world would be without Elon. It's really quite staggering. So at present right now, there are people that are worried, okay, we don't have the same kind of security apparatus team there. I would just say that one of the biggest issues you've got to face is that you cannot have people who are political in the ranks, right? You need to wipe that all clean. And that is what Tulsi is trying to do right now. So it's a big purge, and she's going to continue at it. 37 losing their security clearances. Now, Tulsi Gabbard's doing that. Meanwhile, you get the media out there saying, oh, they're just going after John Bolton because it's a personal vendetta. And granted, Trump didn't like him very much, but it turns out new information today showing it may not just be a personal vendetta. This is actually an investigation that was ongoing, that had already been initiated under the Biden administration. John Bolton was already in hot water. Why? Because John Bolton got a little sloppy, allegedly, with his emails. This is the headline in the New York Times today. John Bolton, inquiry eyes emails obtained by foreign government. It is not clear what country intercepted Mr. Bolton's private emails. I'm betting on Iran, but hey. But the investigation into President Trump's former national security advisor picked up momentum under the Biden administration. So, forgive me, this is the problem with not having any commercial breaks. Sometimes I have to gulp my water live on the set. Or refresh my lipstick, right? Transparency. Anyway, so Bolton basically is now in trouble because, this is my conjecture, I think that he was probably emailing some stuff on his book, his really boring book. I mean, don't take my word for it. The New York Times was like tortured to have to read this. They gave a terrible review. They said it was like completely long-winded. He just kept rambling, and occasionally it sounded like he was really off his rocker. they were brutal to him in the review. But anyway, maybe as he was trying to shop this book, it's quite possible that he was sending what we call in the industry a treatment. When you want to write a book, you usually put together what's called a treatment, and you send that to a book agent. So you might have a thesis, and then you've got an outline of some chapters, and you may have some tidbits of information in there. And I have no particular knowledge. This is all conjecture. I'm speculating at this point because I'm trying to make sense of how these emails were intercepted, and maybe he was a little sloppy. So maybe he actually sent some of this book material onto a book agent, and then one of the foreign governments, China, Iran, whoever it would have been, one of those spy agencies intercepted perhaps the book agent's email because it would not have been as secure, hopefully, as John Bolton's would have been. Although, John, I'll tell you about John. You could be walking down the street, and this happened to me actually at, it was the RNC. I was anchoring at the RNC event for Fox Business, and I remember it was me and Lou Dobbs. Poor Neil had just had a quintuple bypass or something. So they said, Trish, can you fill in and do primetime every night? And I said, sure. And I would come on right after Lou, and I'd always convince him to stick around with me for an hour or so. We had a good time. But that was the RNC event, and I remember at one point walking down the street, and Bolton's like coming towards me, and he's like in La La Land. And we know each other, right? We're working together regularly. He'd probably been on the show the night before, and I'm like, and I'm full hair and makeup. I'm there with my producer, and I'm like, hi. He I don't think he saw me. He seemed at some point, he was like, hi, and it almost seemed like he was in another world. And he had no one with him. He was kind of like a mad professor. And so I was like, gee, it's sort of strange. Like, you kind of think that John Bolton would be a little bit more on his game, but no, I think he was kind of like off in the clouds sometimes. And maybe he was a little sloppy. Remember the time that he was in the meeting with the president, the press briefing, and he had on his notebook something about 10,000 troops to Colombia? And everybody was like, what is that he had scribbled on? He just let everybody see it? Again, it's sort of mad professor, right? Like not paying attention to his surroundings, not really like, maybe he's a little on the spectrum. He doesn't really get. I mean, I think he must be because he's never met a war he doesn't like. Really, I mean, he's very, very much about being so aggressive. And I'm always like, diplomacy, money. Use your financial tools. He's like, why use your financial tools? I'm like, because then you don't lose lives, right? We've had this argument before, Bolton and me. Anyway, the point being, he's now being exposed as having already been under investigation. The New York Times says that they were beginning to pick up momentum on an investigation during the Biden administration when U.S. officials collected information that appeared to show that he had mishandled classified information. Ba-dum-bum. Okay, the U.S. gathered data from an adversarial country's spy service, including emails with sensitive information about Mr. Bolton while still working in the first Trump administration. It appeared to have been sent to people close to him on an unclassified system. So close to him. So maybe it was, I don't know, producers at Fox if he was going to go on and do a television show. Maybe it was book people. I don't know. Maybe it was his friends and family. But you can't do that. Right? Like you can't actually use classified information. And apparently he was speaking to all of them about these sensitive things. And this is what has come out. Now, this is important, guys, because you know what? It totally complicates what the left is trying to say. They're trying to say this is nothing but a vendetta. So think twice about that. Because as the Times reports, while those searches have raised fresh questions, you had the big raid the other day, about the extent to which Mr. Trump may be using the Justice Department and the FBI to try to punish those that he dislikes, the new details in the case present a more complex chain of events. I love the way they phrase that, right? Only the New York Times. I'm just going to tell you what they mean. Here's what they mean. It's not just a complex chain of events. It's the reality that John Bolton had classified information that he was treating willy-nilly, that he was emailing around. And not only did Trump know it, Biden knew it, and he was under investigation. Okay, so this is not a vendetta like the left would like you to believe. The disclosures, they write, suggest that a long-running investigation into Mr. Bolton's activities changed over time, with some of the issues echoing past inquiries into the handling of national security secrets. They go on to talk about the emails in question, and they say that the people who got this appeared to derive from classified documents that he had been sending to them when he was national security advisor. Oh, was he working on his book then? I don't know, but they say Mr. Bolton apparently sent the messages to people close to him who were helping him gather material that he would ultimately use in his 2020 memoir. What'd I tell you? The book agent. I don't know that for fact, but I'm betting like he's working on his book, his really, really boring book that nobody actually likes and nobody actually read. And it's kind of funny that he was there gathering all this information. I'm sorry, it's not funny, but for his book, and that this is what's bringing him down. The book that nobody read, okay? Nobody read it. So headline, guess what? It's not Trump, even though everybody wants to say it is. I mean, Vance tried to explain this to NBC News the other day, remember?
I do want to start with some breaking news. We've learned that the FBI is searching the home of former Ambassador John Bolton, his office as well.
Sure.
Can you tell me, why is the FBI raiding Ambassador Bolton's home and office, and did the White House get a heads up?
Well, so we're in the very early stages of an ongoing investigation into John Bolton. I will say we're going to let that investigation proceed. What I can tell you is that unlike the Biden DOJ and the Biden FBI, our law enforcement agencies are going to be driven by law and not by politics. And so if we think that Ambassador Bolton has committed a crime, of course, eventually prosecutions will come. But as you know, Kristen, this is all part of gathering evidence, trying to understand something that we're worried about. And of course, I'll let the FBI comment on the next stage of the investigation.
What's at the root of this? Is this about classified documents?
Well, again, I'll let the FBI speak to that. Classified documents are certainly part of it, but I think that there's a broad concern about Ambassador Bolton. They're going to look into it. And like I said, if there's no crime here, we're not going to prosecute it. If there is a crime here, of course, Ambassador Bolton will get his day in court. That's how it should be. But again, our focus here is on, did he break the law? Did he commit crimes against the American people? If so, then he deserves to be prosecuted.
As we have this conversation, has Ambassador Bolton been detained, taken into custody, arrested in any form?
So this news just broke this morning, and the FBI, I haven't talked to the FBI this morning. I don't know the answer to that question. I assume that he hasn't been detained and won't be detained until there's a prosecution, if that actually happens.
As you know, Ambassador Bolton is a frequent critic of President Trump's.
Here we
He's
go.
also on Kash Patel's enemies list. The administration has already revoked his security clearance. Secret Service protection. Is Ambassador Bolton being targeted because he's a critic of President Trump?
No, not at all. And in fact, if we were trying to do that, we would just throw out prosecutions willy-nilly like the Biden administration DOJ did, prosecutions that later got thrown out in court. If we bring a case, and of course we haven't done that yet, the Department of Justice has not done that yet. We are investigating Ambassador Bolton, but if they ultimately bring a case, it will be because they determine that he has broken the law. We're going to be careful about that. We're going to be deliberate about that because we don't think that we should throw people, even if they disagree with us politically, maybe especially if they disagree with us politically. You shouldn't throw people willy-nilly in prison. You should let the law drive these determinations, and that's what we're doing.
But you know, a lot of people have already looked at this and said this looks a lot like retribution. Is this retribution?
Well, who has said it looks a lot like retribution, Kristen? A lot of people who tried to throw Donald Trump in prison for completely fake charges that were later thrown out by multiple different courts. I suspect that if the media and the American people let this case actually unfold, if they let the investigation unfold as it's currently doing, they're going to find out that what we're doing is being very deliberate and being very driven by the national interest and by the law here, and that's as it should be.
Exactly. You know, I got to tell you, this is why I can never be a politician. Do you know how annoyed I would be with those questions? How many times do you tell her it was not about retribution? I guess he couldn't tell her that the guy was already under investigation by the Biden administration. You know who should have known that but didn't bother saying anything was Andy McCabe, who went on to CNN and was like, oh, yeah, well, you know, this is what we all think it is. It's just Trump being Trump. What a loser.
Yeah, right. He went through the process. The question is who approved it, and that was, you're right, that was a big point of contention in Trump 1. Andy, I want to bring you back in and just put up some of the quotes that John was referring to from the current heads of the Justice Department and FBI. This is Pam Bondi, 7:45 a.m. America's safety isn't negotiable. Justice will be pursued always during the raid. Kash Patel post, 7:03 a.m. No one is above the law. FBI agents on a mission. How unusual is that kind of post from the heads of the law enforcement agencies in America while this high-profile raid is going on?
I can't think of another FBI director or attorney general, and I worked for many of them, who would have done something similar. This is just simply not the way Department of Justice employees at the department or the bureau operate. We understand.
Ooh, I'm sorry. What happened when they raided Mar-a-Lago? Weren't they all bragging about it? Didn't they take special pictures and release them all? But whatever, Andy, you keep going because you're going to just dig yourself in further.
That there's all kinds of unfavorable attention and reputation impact that comes along with having something happen like what's happening at John Bolton's house right now. In the past, DOJ leadership has always taken the role like we don't go out of our way to draw suspicion or castigate people unless we are doing it officially in court in the form of an indictment and then going into court and proving our case. They speak through the court filings, and that is it. So I think what you're seeing from Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino is pretty typical for them, but it is absolutely atypical for anyone else who's ever served in those roles. And I think it really degrades the Bureau and the department's image and legitimacy in the way that they are so blatantly trying to generate social media attention for themselves at the expense of not just the people who are being investigated, but also the investigators who are doing that work. I can't think of anyone at the FBI who would call attention to a search warrant while it's taking place. You never want tactically.
Blah, 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 blah. Okay? Sorry. I actually bailed on that soundbite earlier than I wanted to. But I wanted to remind you of something because he brought up my friend Bongino. And you know what? Dan Bongino, salt of the earth guy, didn't need to take this job. Believe me, he had a very successful show and was making a ton of money on his wonderful Bongino Report show. He did not need this gig. But you know what? When the president called, he answered. And you know what else? He is a man of principle. And he may have been friends with John Bolton. I mean, like I said, we all worked with him. I don't know if John was really friends with anyone, though. I mean, if I'm being honest. But Dan's a good guy, right? And Dan made it clear about 8 weeks ago that something was coming. I mean, he put Letitia on notice. He effectively, we didn't know it at the time, but Bolton on notice. He almost put the 37 people that just lost their intel clearance all on notice. Hello. Dan called it. Watch.
Are you going to be looking into, Cash and Pam, any potential collusion between the DOJ, Letitia James, the novel legal theory of Alvin Bragg or Nathan Wade or Fonnie Willis and the DOJ? Is that something? Has anything come up? Is there any way to determine whether or not evidence was destroyed in any of these cases?
Well, there's always a way to determine that. I don't want to comment on that specific case right now for a reason. I don't want to get ahead of the Department of Justice on that. But I want to say this. The FBI obviously has the public corruption portfolio. And yes, if you are a corrupt politician out there, if you are engaged in behavior, you know what you're doing, we're going to find you. I promise. No one is going to get off. The days of selecting and putting your partisan bias on and taking care of your friends, those days are over. You know what, Sean? I don't have any friends. I don't want any friends. Well, maybe outside of you and a couple of. I don't care. I didn't come here for the money. I didn't come here to make. I know.
No, you didn't go there for the money. I can tell people that for sure.
No, I didn't come here to make friends. I don't give a damn about friends. I don't have any friends. I don't want any friends. I got my wife. I got you, and I got a small crew of people. So I don't need any friends. If
you want a friend in D.C., get a dog.
We're coming for you.
That'll help.
Yeah, exactly. You want a friend in D.C., right? Go get a Labradoodle like I have, because there are no friends in D.C. You've been doing this, 30 years? There are no friends here.
Okay, so I think the big takeaway from that, and I know like some of you got annoyed with Bongino over, some of the other stuff. I'm just going to tell you, I trust the guy. I really do. Because he's like, I can count on one hand the people in television, kid you not, that are just good, really like straight up people, and he's one of them. So I'm going to take him at his word, and he's saying there's more to come. And I'm pretty darn sure there's more to come. Okay, because now we've just learned that Bolton was in trouble. They were trying to spin this up. Oh, by the way, did I tell you he got Abby Lowell? Abby Lowell, who's making a killing. Man, oh man, he's riding this one all the way to the bank. He must have voted for Trump, for goodness sakes. Like, he's got family wealth he's going to generate off of this boondoggle, right? Everybody getting in all kinds of trouble because they did some really shady things. Allegedly. It's going to come out. And it's going to be proven, and we're going to know exactly what went down. Meanwhile, we got to talk about Cracker Barrel, because Cracker Barrel has just folded. Cracker Barrel said, you know what, you guys were right. They're admitting defeat over there at that nice little country store. It's like, I like it. I liked it. I mean, this ridiculous Burger King redo. I'm sorry. Like, does nobody have any taste? Who's their decorator, for goodness sakes? It's a disaster. Well, guess what? Moments ago, here we go, some breaking news for you. They got rid of the LGBTQ plus alliance. Yeah. Instead, they're going to actually refocus on corporate giving for people with food insecurity. Oh, for goodness sakes. I hate that food insecurity. Who don't have enough food, okay? Can we just speak plain English? Supporting community needs through food and reducing food waste. Lovely. Okay, lovely. That's great, guys. So they actually they've taken down this page on their website, and they're committing it to space for helping people who don't have enough food. Okay, that's better. It's much better. I mean, look, I think they got the message, right? My friend Ashley was out at a Cracker Barrel the other day. Great guy. I used to work with at FBN, Fox Business News, and he did a very nice little report. You saw the stock tank, and it was like down 9%. But guess what? It's recovered. It's recovered. Why? Because Cracker Barrel was smart enough, and I give them this credit, to take the president's advice. The president sent a lovely message on Truth Social saying, hey, listen to your customers. They're the best polls ever. Do what they want. Don't go woke. And what do you know? They brought back this guy.
Talking about we need a rebrand. Then poof, how you gonna rebrand without debrand?
Cracker Barrel, you might be going the way of Bud Light. That was also in my shorts feed. But you know what? They're not going to go the way of Bud Light. I mean, it may be a little rocky. I know a lot of you don't really want to go there right now, but they're at least trying to salvage themselves. They're not that dense. It seemed like they were for a minute.
Backlash. Cracker Barrel spending $700 million on a rebranding plan that they say will turn the product from old rustic to perhaps more modern streamlined. Customers say that's just a giant helping of biscuits and bologna. They don't like it. So after a week's worth of backlash, the Tennessee-based company did put out an apology statement of sorts, which said, in part, quote, "We know we won't always get everything right the first time, but we'll keep testing, learning and listening to our guests and employees." But the mea culpa, well, it didn't go down that well. Critics called it lame, and social media lit up with comments like these, quote, "You kicked Uncle Herschel to the curb. Now you are paying the price. Own it and stop making excuses." Another wrote, "Eating Sunday supper in a place that looks like a car dealership does not say vintage Americana." But the company's new logo, let's begin there, a simple gold shield with the restaurant's name. But gone is the image of a man affectionately called Uncle Herschel, dressed in overalls, sitting by a barrel. The company also says stores will be decluttered with fewer knickknacks on the wall, with brighter paint and booths. Critics call that soulless, sterile, and woke. Erasing heritage, they say. Another part of the apology statement, though, went on to say, look, the things people love most about our stores aren't going anywhere. Rocking chairs on the porch, a warm fire in the hearth, peg games on the table, unique treasures in our gift shop, and vintage Americana. But you know what, guys? It's not just the criticism that won't go away. The stock price for Cracker Barrel has dropped 10% since this controversy began. That translates to about $143 million in value being wiped off the books. So, yes, Cracker Barrel wants to move ahead and wants this controversy to go away, but it's not happening anytime soon. Back to you.
Well, it's getting better. It's getting better. So that was a couple of days ago. And I think people feel a little bit vindicated. They feel like, okay, the company listened to us. I mean, it doesn't change, I guess, the reality that you know what direction they were going in. I mean, for goodness sakes, the CEO was on Good Morning America and she was trying to convince everybody, this was just great. This is just great. And we're like, okay, woke lady, enough.
Overwhelmingly positive that people like what we're doing. I'll give you another soundbite. I actually happened to be in Orlando last week with all of our managers. We bring them together and every other year. And the number one question that I got asked, Michael, was, how can I get a remodel? When can I get a remodel? How do I get on the list?
Oh, really?
So because the feedback and the buzz is so good, not only from our customers, but from our team members.
No, it wasn't that good. Okay. It wasn't that good. So now you're apologizing and now you're going back to the old Uncle Herschel logo, and you're getting rid of the LGBTQ stuff on the website and refocusing. And I would say, good. You know what? At least you clued in. Finally, maybe you're not an ignoramus as you're. Oh, are they going to allow that anymore? Here's another controversy. You know that little ping game? If you've ever been to a Cracker Barrel, they have this little game that you can have to play, and it's kind of fun. And you have to get a certain number right, or else you're an ignoramus. No more.
2, you're pretty smart. If you leave 3, you're just plain dumb. And if you leave 4, you're more than just a plain ignoramus.
Now, that was the original.
That's the offensive version.
Now, what's about now they changed it.
Cleaned it up. Yeah, so you won't be as offended.
The new one says, if you leave only 1, you're a genius. If you leave 2 and the rocking chair, but not the game. Wait, if leave 2 and rocking the chair, but not the game. Okay, you're rocking the chair, but you're not rocking the game. Leave 3 or more, no reason to be embarrassed. Try again.
Yeah, okay, because that's the woke thing, right? Nobody can be embarrassed. You're never going to be an ignoramus in this new, happy little world in which we live. Except, you know what? We don't want that. We elected Donald Trump. Popular vote and the Electoral College, right? We don't want that. We're sick of the wokeness. Look, I mean, they tried to destroy so many companies. It was partly why I started 76 Research with Rob, because we're looking at all these stocks and we're like, for goodness sakes, this is kind of a bargain. Nobody wants to invest in this because they're too worried about, this, that, and the other. I'm sorry. When you're more focused on having somebody with purple hair and like multiple genders on your board of directors instead of actually making money, that's a problem. That needed to change. Plenty of great companies out there making plenty of money. And that's what you want to find. And that's what we try and do for you at 76 Research. Go there, use code word $, and and engage in this economy, because this is going to be good. I'm telling you. I want to turn to some of the new polls that have just come out right now, because they've kind of had a large span. I mean, on the one hand, like, he's doing great. And then on the other hand, if you look at this Quinnipiac one, which threw me off because Quinnipiac has usually been pretty good and very positive on Trump, that one he's not doing as well. And I think that there's just so much in the terms of news flow, as I explain this to you guys, that, it's like, what minute do you catch someone in? Because, 1 minute they may be worried about tariffs, and then the next minute they're like, wow, look at that crackdown on crime. One thing that we saw overall in terms of the polls was that there was a lot of appreciation for the crackdown on crime, for sure. And actually what he's doing on the immigration front is being very, very well received. If you look at the aggregate numbers, not bad, between New York Times and Real Clear Politics, for 43% and 45.3% respectively. Not bad at all. Again, there's a lot going on. This one kind of surprised me, okay? So this is Quinnipiac, most recent polling actually showing the lowest approval rating for the Republican president among the bunch, slipping 3 points since the survey was conducted in mid-June. Again, I would just say that you got to take into consideration all that's happening right now, because there's a lot happening, right? There's so much going on right now. So how do you think about these things? I asked my friend Kent Strang from AFP. Watch. Joining me right now with a look at some of these polls and the state of the economy, we have my good friend back on the show, Kent Strang from AmericansForProsperity.org. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back, Trish.
So I'm looking at these polls, and some of them are really good. Right? Like, the Harvard-Harris one, pretty impressive, 47%. Some of them, 37% out of Quinnipiac. I was a little surprised by that. What people are saying, analysts are saying, is contributing to this is a little bit of uncertainty over the economy. I'm looking at the markets going, they feel pretty good. They seem pretty good, especially when you look at the tech sector. What do you think's really going on? What's affecting these poll numbers right now?
Look, I think a lot of Americans can look at this and feel like prices are high, and maybe that's leading to some of the consumer sentiment. But let's take a look at what's happened since President Trump has regained office here. Inflation has remained steady at 1.9%. We see weekly wages are growing and outpacing inflation. We see the small business confidence is at a 5-month high. And I think what's driving that particular part is the One Big Beautiful Bill. What that did for small businesses was ensure that they can thrive and grow by reinvesting in their business with the 100% deductions on buying machinery. They can hire more employees. They know that the corporate rate is going to be there forever, that it codifies the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act rates. And so I think we're seeing a lot of stability in our market. It's a durable economy. Gas prices are down. And I think that's going to result in a good thing for Americans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it saying, I don't know what anybody's got to complain about. I mean, things are actually looking a whole lot better than back in the day. And there's a lot, I think, promising to look forward to. Perhaps maybe it's just some of this rhetoric from the mainstream media that's scaring people. I don't know, about tariffs, et cetera, international issues. I'm surprised. I actually am surprised at the Quinnipiac poll, because they often tend to be pretty spot on. I'm heartened by what we're seeing in terms of the 47%. But, overall, if I were going to give him a grade, it's an A+, because One Big Beautiful Bill happened. We're looking at lower taxes being cemented in. That's so critical, as you well know, for small business owners. We're looking at this burst in AI activity, which is a big, big deal. And I can't stress that enough. And this is a president who understands it and embraces it. Right? As opposed to, say, the Elizabeth Warrens, Kamala Harris, Joe Bidens of the world that were scared of it, that backed away. He's like, no, we're going to own this space.
Right. It's incredibly clear that AI is going to be the next economic driver, the next economic revolution. And what we need to decide right now in our government and as Americans is, do we want to be the global leader in AI and compete with China? I think we do, because that's the future of the economy. And one thing that we need to make sure that we do that to be prepared for the infrastructure of that is, as all these data centers come on board, what are they going to need? They're going to need energy.
Energy, I was just going to say that.
And if they can't produce affordable energy to drive the data centers and also lower costs for Americans, we're in big trouble. So what we really need Congress to do is we need Congress to zero in and focus on permitting reform. So what is permitting reform? It lowers the red tape. It makes it easier to build those energy projects, because, as you well know, these projects get caught up in legal ease, they get caught up in red tape, they get caught up in lawsuits, and we can't build anything. If we keep that red tape intact, it's going to make it so we're behind the curve on AI, behind the curve on energy production, and we're not going to be the global leader to compete with China in that space.
No, we got to own it. We got to own it. Hey, I'm curious, what do you think? 'Cause I'm very curious about this, Kent, and we haven't talked about this offline or anything, but you see the government now taking a stake in Intel, or the government taking a stake in defense companies. So, me, good red-blooded American capitalist, my first instinct was, I don't know about that because, I don't want the government involved. But at the same time, I'm also like, Intel's kind of important from a national security standpoint. All of these defense companies are really important from a national security standpoint. And when you see sort of the demise of Intel that's been happening, let's face it, right, over the last 15 years. It used to be the hottest thing since sliced bread, and it's just deteriorated massively. When you see that, some of these defense companies maybe aren't keeping up because, I don't know, maybe they're too interested in DEI stuff, that makes me nervous. The flip side, of course, is, gosh darn it, what if Kamala Harris were president and suddenly she's dictating, how they're going to run the defense companies and Intel? What's your take on that? What is AFP thinking about it?
I am with you in that assessment that there are certainly national security concerns, and that's why President Trump and this administration are looking at that. But I'm with you that I'm a believer in free market capitalism, that the government doesn't pick winners and losers, the marketplace decides. And what gives me pause is exactly what you said, is what happens when a hardcore progressive leftist president comes along.
It could happen,
says,
right?
We're going to nationalize American industry. Well, we know what happens when that goes on and that takes place. And so I think we should exercise an incredible amount of caution as we look at the United States government taking stake in companies.
It's so hard. Or maybe the answer is we just always need to have business people in that slot. I mean, he's a business guy. He gets it. For goodness sakes, he's out there giving Cracker Barrel advice, right? It was good advice, by the way. Cracker Barrel took it, and what do you know? The stock recovered, and people are still a little bit bruised, but it moved quickly, and that was a smart thing to do. His point was, hey, Cracker Barrel, you know what? Admit you're wrong, and accept the fact that you just got $1 billion worth of free marketing and move on, and listen to your consumers, listen to your customers, because they are really ultimately the best polls. And I thought it was great advice. Look, he's a business guy. He gets business. He's looking at Intel saying, you got to do better. If we're going to give you money, you better actually do better. So I understand that perspective. I just worry from the standpoint that we may not always have a Donald Trump-like figure in office. And if you get somebody who's a commie, AOC or Bernie Sanders-like or Tim Walz or any of these characters, Gavin Newsom, for goodness sakes, you're going to be up a creek without a paddle. Again, where do you see us right now? I know some analysts, there's a recession coming. I look at the markets every day. I don't see it, Kent, only because I look at where the stock market is, and they're trying to plan 6 months out, and I'm seeing a lot of upside and consistency and optimism. Where are you?
Sure, I certainly don't have the crystal ball on that right now, but I see optimism too. And again, I look back at what Congress did with the One Big Beautiful Bill. They made the 2017 tax cuts permanent for American families. And we know that if that didn't happen, it would have resulted in the largest tax hike in American history. I think there's a lot of good to glean from that, and we need our economy to focus on that. But we also need Republicans to go sell that bill and sell that language to provide the confidence to consumers and the American people, because failure to do so would be a mistake, and to hide away from this transformational piece of legislation would be a problem, because there is so much good that will light our economy on fire. Yeah. We need to make that be known. And we're doing that at Americans for Prosperity every single day. Just in August recess alone, we've had over 48 lawmakers join us for events. We've had over 500 events this year on the One Big Beautiful Bill. And we've knocked on about 800,000 doors on this issue, made over 600,000 phone calls on this issue. Gosh. And so we need
you guys
the
are
American
doing
people.
Great stuff. No, you really are. I mean, it's why I'm so happy to partner with you, because you get such a great message. It's so much about making these opportunities for everyday Americans, giving everybody, as I call it, the freedom to prosper. So I encourage people to go check out AmericansForProsperity.org. You can get involved. You guys have all kinds of grassroots levels for people to get involved and roll up their sleeves and join your community and help make it a better place. This is a great country. We're coming up on 250 years. I love it. We're celebrating all year long. It is good to see you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Trish. Appreciate
Keep up the good stuff.
Thank you.
Again, my thanks to Kent. Yeah, this is really strange. I see some of your comments on Quinnipiac just being a miserable poll. Again, AmericansForProsperity.org. You should go check them out when you have a moment. Terrific organization doing a lot to advance the Trump agenda and the conservative agenda right now. It was a wild poll. Listen, I think that things are pretty good right now. And, I don't know, you can say I'm living in a bubble. I do need your help, though. I just put a message up. Help me get to 1 million subs, okay? Subscribe, share, like, make a comment. It's really, really, really important. I love having you all here. I'm seeing some new names here. So I appreciate you joining me. Millions soon. Uncle Andy, I hope. I think they make it harder for you. It's like a battle of wills, right? Like they're like, okay, can you do it? This happened when I was trying to get to 100,000, just 100,000 subs. It was in August of, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Think about that, guys. We hit 100,000 in August. I remember because I was up in Maine on a family vacation, and I was still doing the show from Maine. I had like this little hovel like in the room. It was all like this pine wood around me in this little cabin, right? And I'm like just like inching back into that little corner of the room, and I was doing my show from there. And anyway, it was 100,000 that I was coming up on. I was like, oh, if I can only get to 100,000. And so here we are 2 years later. And I'm like, oh, can we get to 1 million? It's like we were flying. And then all of a sudden, like as we inch closer, so much for compound returns, right? Compound interest. Thank you, guys. I know that we will get to 1 million. David Lorenzo, is this not a miracle? I told you I'm getting better and better at tech. I found this little tiny fan that I can put on the camera itself. Amazing what you learn. I'll tell you, thank you very much, ChatGPT. You're teaching me every day. Charlotte, it's good to see you. You're not getting the notifications. All right, we really need to do something about that. We really need to. I'm going to create like some kind of newsletter. Stay tuned. Give me a couple of weeks because it's a little bit of work. But I want to make sure that we have some kind of newsletter where you guys can at least get the alert. I hope I don't annoy you too much with it, but we'll get the alert out there. But it's great to have you all here. David, thank you for the nice thoughts. I got to get Fluffy back on, right? Fluffy is my dog that Don is referring to, my little teeny tiny Maltese. And it's actually a he. He's wonderful. He's just the cutest little, the kids call him Fluffy because, they were kids when they got him. I'm actually afraid of dogs. Not anymore. This is like, what do they call this? CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, because I was actually really afraid of dogs, like weirdly afraid of dogs, like little dogs. And, we all have our things. Mine was dogs. So I would actually hear a dog coming towards me, like if I was walking down the street, and I would cross to the other side of the road. No joke. Like I was really scared of dogs. I did get bitten as a kid, but I can't blame it on that because I was scared of dogs before I even got bitten. So the kids really want a dog, and I'm a mom. I want my kids to have a dog. It seems like a nice thing to have in childhood, and I didn't want them to be like me and be afraid of dogs. But I said, here's the deal. We're going to get a really little dog, like a really little dog. So I found the smallest dog I could, a Maltese. And my husband's like, you're going to be kidding me. Because he's 6'7", okay? He's a big guy. He's like, are you kidding me? We're getting a Maltese? And I'll tell you, he fell in love with that dog. From day one, we went to go see this dog at the breeder, and he was just the cutest little thing, just such a good dog. And we left, and my husband said, that is a good dog. And of course now, my giant 6'7" husband will walk the dog, this little tiny little guy. And he's the best. We just adore him. We love him, and he is such a part of the family. He's actually the only one of my kids, I joke, that really listens and does what I say. You heard what Bongino said earlier. If you want a friend, get a dog, right? Listen, if you want a child that's going to obey you constantly, it's the dog. Love seeing you all. It is really, really good to have you all here. And thank you for everything you do. I'm going to be back with you live again tomorrow. And hopefully we really do hit that 1 million mark soon. What do you think? Can we do it by end of September? Maybe? What do you know? What do you think? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. I'll see you live again tomorrow. Plenty of content coming your way today.